A neighborhood HOA Karen called the cops to evict a woman from her own lake only to find out that woman runs the FBI division that audits people like her. She thought she had power. She thought she owned the rules. But when you mess with a federal agent on her own land, justice doesn't knock. It kicks the damn door down. The sun had just begun its slow descent behind the cottonwood trees lining the edge of our ranch lake. A light breeze stirred the water's surface, sending soft ripples across the stillness. Birds chirped. The sky stretched wide and cloudless above the rolling Texas hills. It was the kind of afternoon that makes you feel like the world finally took a breath. My wife, Maya, was where she always was on Sundays, sitting at the lake's edge, fishing rod in one hand and a paperback novel in the other. She wore her usual sun hat, old jeans, and a flannel shirt rolled up at the sleeves. To anyone else, she looked like a peaceful woman enjoying nature. But what most people didn't know, what Karen certainly didn't know, was that Maya wasn't just another lakeside rancher. She was a high-ranking FBI agent, a 15-year veteran, calm under pressure, trained to stare down threats without blinking. But above all that, she was my wife. And this lake, it was ours, not public, not shared, fully deeded to our 60-acre ranch. We'd bought this land fair and square, long before the HOA ever existed. The property included private access to the lake, legally recorded and undisputed, at least, until the HOA got new leadership. For weeks, we'd been getting strange notices slipped under our gate. Handwritten threats disguised as friendly reminders about compliance with community lake use standards. One letter even had the audacity to suggest we apply for membership, approval to use our own land. Maya had laughed when she read that one. But that Sunday, things escalated. A white BMW SUV rolled up on the gravel road that skirted the edge of our ranch. Just outside the gate we kept open on weekends, it came to a halt with a dramatic crunch of gravel. The door swung open, and out stepped a woman in her mid-50s. Platinum blonde bob, oversized designer sunglasses, a clipboard clutched under one arm like a badge of authority. She marched toward the lake, heels clicking on the uneven ground. I watched from the porch with my coffee, halfway through an email to our contractor, when I saw her zero in on Maya like a heat-seeking missile. "Excuse me," she shouted, striding right up to Maya. "You can't be here." Maya didn't even look up. She turned a page in her book and replied casually, "Actually, I can." "I don't think so," the woman snapped. "This lake is HOA property. Members only. I'm the head of the environmental committee. You need to leave immediately. Now." Maya looked up, eyes calm, voice steady. "Ma'am, this is private land. We own this lake and the surrounding acreage." "I'm not going anywhere," Karen snorted. "Sure you do." That's what the last squatter said. That's when I started walking down the hill, toward them. Maya was holding steady, but something about Karen's posture set off alarms in my head. She wasn't just being rude. She was itching for a confrontation. "Let me make myself clear," Karen said, stepping closer. "You are trespassing on HOA-regulated property. If you don't vacate in the next 2 minutes, I will be forced to report you." Maya gave her a slow, cool smile. "Do what you need to do. I'll be right here." Karen's nostrils flared. "Don't think I won't. You people always think you can get away with anything." That was it. I saw Maya's jaw tighten. Karen pulled out her phone and began dialing. Loudly, dramatically. "Yes, hello. I need the sheriff out here, immediately. There's a suspicious woman on our lakefront. She's refusing to leave. She might be dangerous, possibly armed." I froze for a second. She really said that? She just lied to 911 about a federal agent being armed and dangerous. On her own property. Maya didn't move. She didn't blink. She simply texted me with 3 words, "Stay calm, watch." I stayed by the tree line. Phone recording everything. Karen snapped her phone shut and turned back with a look of triumphant rage. "You're in big trouble, sweetheart. When the sheriff sees you here, he'll haul you off so fast." Maya replied gently, "You really think this is your lake, don't you?" Karen smirked. "It's community land. HOA law is real law, honey. And what gives your HOA the right to override recorded property deeds?" Maya asked. Karen blinked. "Deeds? What deeds?" Maya opened her tackle box, pulled out a plastic folder, and held it out calmly. "These deeds." Karen didn't take it. I got closer now, just in case things turned sideways. But Maya never raised her voice, never moved fast. She just stood still, as if daring Karen to keep going. A few moments later, sirens approached. A sheriff's cruiser pulled up, followed by a second SUV. Two deputies stepped out, one older, one young and eager. Karen ran toward them like a drama queen in a soap opera. "There she is," she shrieked, pointing wildly at Maya. "She threatened me and refused to leave. She's been loitering here all afternoon." The younger deputy placed his hand on his holster and approached. "Ma'am," he said sternly to Maya, "we got a call about—" "Stop," Maya said. Calm as ice. She reached into her back pocket. Karen screamed. "She's reaching for something." The deputy tensed him till Maya slowly held up her FBI credentials, flipping them open with practiced ease. "Silence." The older deputy stepped forward, looked at the ID, then at Maya's face, and his entire posture changed. "Agent Johnson." Maya nodded. "Yes, sir." The younger deputy blinked. "Wait, FBI." Karen's face went pale. "Ma'am," the older deputy said gently, "is this your land?" "I own this lake and this property," Maya said, holding up the documents. "This woman is trespassing, has filed a false police report, and may be in violation of prior harassment orders." The young deputy turned to Karen. "Is this true?" Karen opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Maya calmly added, "Would you like me to bring out the court file from last year? Or should we call my office?" Karen stumbled backward. I didn't know. "I thought you thought wrong," Maya said, returning to her folding chair. I finally walked up beside her. Karen took one look at me, at Maya's badge, at the deputy's hand, bolted back to her SUV. Before she left, Maya called out, "By the way, you just escalated this to federal territory. Congratulations." Karen sped off, tires kicking up dust. Maya reeled in her fishing line and leaned back. "Nothing like catching a wild Karen," she said with a grin. I laughed, but deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. Karen paced near the edge of the lake like she was guarding Buckingham Palace. She kept glaring at Maya, throwing dramatic glances at her watch and mumbling to herself. Maya, calm as ever, didn't move. She stayed seated on the old wooden bench by the dock, hat shading her eyes, fishing rod in hand. Then came the sound. That changed the tone. Tires crunching over gravel. Two sheriff's department SUVs pulled up on the narrow dirt road that curved around our property line. The rumble of engines grew louder as Karen nearly sprinted toward them, waving her arms, like a traffic controller in a panic. "Oh, thank God," she exclaimed to the first deputy as he stepped out. "She's still here, still refusing to leave." The deputy was young, probably mid-20s, jaw tight, hand resting on his holster, not drawn, but close enough to notice. The second officer, older and more experienced by the look in his eyes, stepped out of the second cruiser with a clipboard and an air of caution. Karen pointed an accusatory finger at Maya. "She's trespassing on HOA property. She got aggressive when I asked her to leave. I feared for my life. She might even be armed. I saw her reaching for something earlier." The younger deputy nodded, his hand still hovering near his belt as he began walking toward Maya. Maya stood up, deliberately, calmly, slowly. Her body language communicated no threat, but also no fear. She reached into her back pocket and pulled out a slim leather wallet. Karen, standing behind the deputy, suddenly shouted, "She's reaching. Watch out." The young deputy froze, alarmed, but the older one stepped forward, shaking his head slightly. "Ma'am," he said to Maya in a level voice, "please don't make any sudden moves. We just need to get a sense of what's going on." Maya opened the wallet and held up a card between two fingers. "Sure, you'll want to see this." The older deputy took the ID. His eyes scanned it, and then they widened. He blinked, then looked up at her. "Your agent, Maya Johnson." Karen's jaw visibly dropped. Wait, what did you just say?" The younger deputy looked confused. What kind of agent?" Maya turned fully toward him and flipped open her badge wallet. It gleamed under the sun. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Underneath her credentials read, Assistant Deputy Director, Internal Criminal Investigations, FBI. "Special Agent Johnson," she said evenly. "Off duty today, but I'm on my own property. This lake sits entirely within the bounds of my husband and I's ranch. It's private land, supported by deed, state-verified boundary maps, and county court enforcement. If you'd like to see the parcel documents, they're in my truck, along with a restraining notice filed 2 years ago against the HOA. Karen's face turned ghost white. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. The younger deputy stepped back, visibly shaken. "We didn't know." The caller said, "You were a stranger, possibly armed." Asterisk Maya didn't even flinch. Did she also mention she walked 400 feet onto my land to confront me? That she's not an enforcement official, not law enforcement, and not my neighbor. That she's on private property without permission. Because that would make her the trespasser. Asterisk the older deputy narrowed his eyes at Karen, then looked over at the white SUV she had parked partially on our lawn. Asterisk, ma'am, he said, turning to Karen, is that your vehicle? Asterisk, Karen straightened up. Yes, but I was just enforcing HOA policy. I'm on the board. Asterisk Maya raised an eyebrow. Enforcing a policy on land not under HOA jurisdiction. That's impersonation of authority. Asterisk, Karen stammered. That's not what I meant. Asterisk, the older deputy asked Maya, would you like to file a formal complaint? Asterisk, Karen snapped her head toward him. Wait, what? I'm the one who called you. Asterisk, the deputy looked unimpressed. Yes, and you filed a false report. You described a suspicious woman, possibly armed, but the individual in question is a federal agent. Lawfully on her own property, doing nothing illegal. That's obstruction of emergency services at best. Filing a false police report at worst. Asterisk Maya stepped forward, cool and composed. I'm not pressing charges yet, but I'd like a written report of this incident filed at the county level, and I'd also like it noted that this is the second time HOA members have violated our property line. This will go to internal affairs. Asterisk, Karen blinked, suddenly confused. Internal what? Asterisk, the Office of Internal Oversight, Maya said. They're not as polite as I am, especially when it comes to harassment with racial overtones. Calling the police on a black woman fishing alone, saying she might be armed. You meant for something worse to happen, didn't you? Asterisk, Karen's mouth moved, but nothing came out. The young deputy looked deeply uncomfortable now. Maya held up her phone. Don't worry, it's all recorded. Asterisk, the older deputy nodded. I think we're done here. Agent Johnson will log the report. Would you like her removed from your property? Asterisk, Maya tilted her head slightly and smiled. I think Karen knows where the line is now. Asterisk, Karen turned and stormed toward her SUV, her heels skidding on the gravel. Asterisk, but before she could open the door, Maya added, oh, and Karen. She paused. Maya held up her phone again. Asterisk, you're already on video. You can expect this to show up in my official report. Don't make the mistake of thinking this is over. Asterisk, Karen stared at her, then jumped in her car and sped off, her tires throwing dust into the air like a cloud of retreat. The deputies exchanged glances. Maya nodded politely to them. Thanks for responding. I understand you had to. Just next time check the property lines before assuming the worst. Asterisk, as the two SUVs rolled out, Maya sat back down on the bench, picked up her fishing rod, and cast her line again. Asterisk, the lake rippled gently. The birds resumed their song. Asterisk, and far in the distance, a certain Karen's empire was starting to collapse. Asterisk, by the time the sun dipped behind the hills, the ranch air had turned cold and still, like the calm before a storm. I was on the porch, sipping coffee when Maya came up the steps, calm as ever, with her fishing gear slung over her shoulder. Asterisk, she really called the cops? I asked, already knowing the answer. Asterisk, Maya didn't reply right away. She sat beside me, peeled off her sunglasses, and looked out over the lake. Asterisk, she called the cops. Accused me of being armed and suspicious. I showed them my ID. They almost fell over. Asterisk, let me guess. Karen had no idea you're with the FBI. Asterisk, Maya smiled faintly. She's about to find out how deep that mistake runs. Asterisk, just then, headlights cut across the gravel path. A sleek black BMW crawled up our long private drive and invited. It stopped just short of our gate. The engine cut. Out stepped a man, in his 50s, paunchy and nervous, holding a bottle of cheap red wine, like it was some sort of peace offering. Asterisk, that's Lanning, Maya muttered. HOA president. Didn't waste any time. Asterisk, he waved like he was greeting old friends. Maya stood up, silent and steady. I followed, staying a step behind. Asterisk, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, he called out. May I have a moment of your time? Asterisk, I narrowed my eyes. This is private property. You weren't invited. Asterisk, I understand, Lanning said quickly, shuffling closer. I wanted to apologize personally. There's been a little mix-up. A misunderstanding, if you will. Asterisk, Maya crossed her arms. Karen trespassed. She threatened me. She lied to the police. That's not a mix-up, Mr. Lanning. Asterisk. He blinked rapidly, then forced a chuckle. She may have been a bit overzealous. She thought you were, you know, loitering. Asterisk. On our own land. I snapped. We live here. That lake has been part of our property since we bought it. It's not HOA land. You people have been told this before. Asterisk. Lanning swallowed. His eyes flicked to Maya, as if he was just now realizing she wasn't some civilian he could We were under the impression, oh well, some of the maps. Asterisk. Which maps? Maya interrupted. He hesitated. Because I have the original land survey, and the court order, and a cease and desist letter sent to your HOA 2 years ago. Want to see it again? Asterisk. Lanning's smile faltered. He extended the wine awkwardly. Why don't we sit down and talk? I think we can come to a civil resolution. I'm sure you don't want unnecessary escalation. Asterisk. Maya stepped forward. The porch light cast a golden glow on her FBI badge, still clipped to her belt. Escalation already happened. When Karen called the police on a federal agent, and falsely claimed I was armed. That's obstruction of justice, misuse of emergency services, and trespassing. Asterisk. He dropped the smile completely. Now agent, you're FBI. Asterisk. I'm more than just FBI. I'm the Assistant Deputy Director of Internal Criminal Investigations. Asterisk. The silence that followed was thick and suffocating. Lanning's hand began to tremble. The wine bottle clinked softly against his belt. Asterisk. I didn't know that, he said, voice dropping to a whisper. You didn't have to, Maya replied. You only needed to respect the law. But this HOA, it's become something else. Abusing authority, harassing homeowners, misrepresenting property lines, collecting illegal fines. That's not oversight, it's extortion in a blazer. Asterisk. Look, he stammered. Let's not go to war over this. I'm sure we can sweep this under the rug. You're powerful, we get that. But surely we can come to a quiet agreement. Asterisk. Now, it was my turn to step in. You're still thinking this is a negotiation. It's not. You people have made it personal, and now Maya's handling it professionally. Asterisk. I've already contacted Internal Affairs, Maya added. They've opened a preliminary file. Tomorrow, we'll be launching a federal audit of HOA transactions, land disputes, and permit irregularities. Your name's already on the list. Asterisk. Lanning blinked hard, his throat visibly working. An audit. That's federal overreach, don't you think? Asterisk. On the contrary, Maya said coolly. It's precisely what we do when small organizations start acting like little kingdoms. And from what I've seen, your tax filings aren't just sloppy, they're suspicious. And, Karen, she approved building permits on properties she didn't own. That's fraud. Asterisk. Lanning's hand slipped, and the wine bottle tumbled from his grasp. It shattered at his feet. Asterisk. Maya didn't flinch. Clean that up before you go. Wouldn't want you fined for violating our landscaping regulations. Asterisk. Lanning looked like he wanted to protest, but he knew he was cornered. There was nothing left to say. He gave a stiff nod, turned and walked back, toward his car with shards of glass crunching beneath his shoes. Asterisk. As his BMW disappeared down the road. I turned to Maya. You think he'll warn Karen? Asterisk. Doesn't matter. By the time the sun rises, this won't be an HOA problem anymore, she said. It'll be a federal case. Asterisk. I stared at her. And just like that, you're going to take down the entire HOA? Asterisk. She glanced out at the lake, calm and shimmering under the moonlight. They came after the wrong woman. Asterisk. By the time dawn broke over the ranch, the dusty calm of the countryside was replaced with the cold, surgical hum of federal business. Asterisk. Black SUVs rolled down our gravel road, one after the other, headlights piercing through the early morning mist. Some neighbors peered from behind curtains, clutching coffee mugs in stunned silence. Others stood on their porches, trying to look casual while secretly recording on their phones. Asterisk. The government plates said everything. Asterisk. 5 vehicles parked just outside our barn, and out stepped the agents dressed in dark suits, sunglasses on, expressions unreadable. One of them nodded toward Maya, who stood waiting by the gate in her FBI tactical fleece, calm and composed like it was just another Tuesday. It was about what Karen represented. Asterisk. Overreach, abuse, control, asterisk, and a pattern of financial manipulation that had been quietly bleeding homeowners dry for years. Asterisk. Karen, from her 2-story house across the way, had frozen mid-step on her front porch. Her coffee cup shattered on the floor. She blinked once, twice, as if trying to make sense of what was unfolding. She had called the cops on the wrong woman. Now the full weight of federal justice was parked on her front lawn. Maya greeted her team with brief nods, then turned toward me. Time to clean house, she said. I followed her into the guest house we'd converted into a command center. Inside were whiteboards already filled with timelines and names, email printouts, surveillance photos. Maya's team had been working remotely for weeks, quietly preparing in the background, ever since our first legal complaint against the HOA was filed and ignored. This wasn't just about Karen anymore. It was about what Karen represented. Overreach, abuse, control, and a pattern of financial manipulation that had been quietly bleeding homeowners dry for years. Inside the HOA office, small brick building tucked behind a gated subdivision, the agents executed a search warrant. Files, hard drives, and backup servers were loaded into evidence crates. What began as a neighborhood dispute was rapidly becoming a federal investigation. Karen's name appeared repeatedly on reports. She'd approved permits for developments that didn't pass environmental inspections. She'd fined neighbors over imaginary infractions. She'd funneled HOA funds into a fake beautification project, handled by a shell company. That shell company, owned by Mr. Lanning's cousin. No services were ever rendered. No trees were planted. But $83,762 had vanished. Meanwhile, residents were threatened with foreclosure over $50 unpaid lawn fees. And Karen. She got her manicures done with HOA funds listed as board expenses. By 10 a.m., the news broke. A local reporter posted drone footage of the SUVs on social media. The caption read, breaking. FBI raids, local HOA in corruption probe. It exploded. Comments poured in. Oh my god, is that our HOA? They better investigate mine next. Someone give that woman by the lake a medal. While agents compiled evidence, Maya moved like a ghost, quiet, methodical, unstoppable. She coordinated with the regional field office, issued subpoenas, cross-referenced bank transfers, and connected the dots between over 20 suspicious vendors linked to the HOA's financials. At one point, a young female agent pulled Maya aside. Ma'am, you're not on this case officially, but I've never seen an assistant deputy this handsome. Maya smiled softly. This one's personal. Meanwhile, Karen had barricaded herself inside her house, blinds drawn, lights off. But the warrant was coming. By noon, 2 agents knocked on her door. She opened it, pale-faced and visibly shaking. This has to be some mistake. I didn't. I just wanted the lake to be safe. Ma'am, one agent interrupted, holding up the signed warrant. You're being investigated for multiple potential violations. Obstruction, fraud, and misuse of emergency services. Karen blinked rapidly. I didn't know she was FBI. That's not the point. She tried to slam the door shut. Didn't matter. They were already in. Across the community, the effect was immediate. Board members vanished from public view. The HOA website went offline. Residents started talking openly for the first time. I always knew something was off. One neighbor whispered to me that afternoon. I paid $200 last year to repaint my mailbox beige, because they said it was too white. That woman Karen stood on my lawn with a color swatch book. Who does that? Another man, a retired teacher, told us how the HOA threatened him, over his American flag being too large. But now they had someone in their corner. Maya didn't need to give speeches. She didn't need to rally crowds. Her presence alone, her quiet, unwavering resolve sparked something. And while she worked through spreadsheets of corruption, Karen sat in her home surrounded by agents, watching her carefully curated world crumble. Later that evening, I found Maya on the dock. She was barefoot, legs dangling over the edge of our lake, eyes scanning the still water like it held the answers to everything. How are you holding up? I asked, sitting beside her. She shrugged. This was never about me. It's about people like Karen thinking they can rewrite the law to suit their control. I nodded. And you reminded them that the law has teeth. She chuckled. Sometimes, it wears a badge. From across the lake, Karen's porch light flickered off. Quiet returned, but this time, it wasn't the silence of oppression. It was the stillness before justice by 8 a.m. The sound of rotors broke the morning calm. A local news chopper hovered in the sky, its camera aimed directly at our ranch. The story had spread like wildfire overnight. And it wasn't just the locals watching anymore. HOA Karen versus FBI agent. It was too juicy for the internet to ignore. Asterisk, I stood on the porch, sipping my coffee, while my wife, the same woman Karen had accused of loitering, was on her second conference call with DOJ officials. She was still in joggers and a sweatshirt, cool as ever. But behind her calm eyes was a force building like a storm. Asterisk. You think she knows? I asked her. Asterisk. Maya gave a half smile. Karen doesn't even know what day it is. Across the pasture, Karen's pristine house, with its always trimmed hedges, looked more like a fortress now. Curtains were drawn. Her HOA welcome sign had been taken down. And for the first time in months, her front lawn hadn't been mowed. Asterisk. At precisely 9:03 a.m., two black SUVs rolled through the HOA subdivision gates and came to a smooth stop in front of Karen's driveway. The doors opened in unison. 4 agents stepped out, dressed in sleek windbreakers, marked with bold yellow letters, FBI. I saw Karen through her bay window. At first, she stood frozen. She was mid-call, probably still ranting in some Facebook group. But when she saw the agents approaching her door, clipboards in hand, one holding a warrant folder, she dropped her phone. And then it happened. She ran. Asterisk. Not far, just to the back patio, frantically fumbling with the lock on her screen door, as if she could escape through her own backyard. But the agents were trained. One circled to the rear, while the others calmly knocked. Asterisk. Federal agents opened the door. A long pause. Then came the sound of someone slowly unlocking it. Asterisk. Karen appeared, disheveled, in a silk bathrobe and bedroom slippers, hair wrapped in a towel like she'd just stepped out of a bad infomercial. Asterisk eyed. This must be a mistake. She. STAMMERED. Asterisk. The agent raised the folder. Karen L. Thatcher. We have a warrant to search your premises. You are being investigated for obstruction of justice, trespassing, and misuse of emergency services. Asterisk. Karen blinked. No, this isn't happening. Meanwhile, the camera on the news helicopter zoomed in. Asterisk. In moments. Local station WQTN News 5 posted it live to social media. Asterisk. Breaking. FBI serves warrant to HOA president involved in lake property scandal. Asterisk. The footage showed her stunned face. And just like that, it was everywhere. Twitter exploded. Reddit threads popped up. Asterisk. Karen called the cops on a federal agent fishing on her own lake, and now the FBI's at her door. Asterisk. TikTok had mashups within hours, complete with dramatic music and popcorn emojis, but nothing prepared the world for what came next. Asterisk. At exactly 10:15 a.m., Karen was escorted out of her home, handcuffed. Asterisk. One agent gently placed a coat over her shoulders, standard procedure for arrests, with media present, but that didn't stop the press from getting the shot. Asterisk. She tried to hide her face, but her mascara had run, her towel had slipped, and her expression was a mix of confusion and rage. Click. The mugshot was taken an hour later. Asterisk. Within minutes, someone inside the courthouse leaked it to the media. Asterisk. Karen Thatcher, age 47, charges pending, expression priceless. The photo went viral. Even celebrities reposted it with captions like, asterisk, don't mess with women who fish, especially if they work for the FBI. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Maya remained surprisingly quiet. Asterisk. I asked her, you're not celebrating? Asterisk. She looked up from her laptop. No need to. This isn't over. Not just for Karen. Asterisk. She clicked her mouse and pulled up a spreadsheet. Dozens of names. Financial records. Una provid fines. Fake maintenance charges. Duplicate receipts. Asterisk. This was never just a nosy neighbor trying to police a lake, she said. This HOA has been extorting homeowners for years, while Karen sobbed behind closed courtroom doors. Mr. Lanning, the HOA president, wasn't faring much better. Asterisk. FBI agents had already raided his office. They discovered that his landscaping company was nothing more than a shell business. HOA funds had been funneled into personal accounts. His offshore transfers were tracked. He was caught red-handed. And the deeper they looked, the worse it got. Fraud, wire transfers, bribed inspectors, and dozens of homeowners like us who'd been falsely threatened. Lanning was arrested 2 days later at a golf club, mid-swing. He tried to argue, but the agents handed him a copy of a subpoena, so thick it could have broken his driver. That night, Maya received a call from Washington. Agent Johnson. The voice on the other end said, "Excellent work. We'd like to initiate a wider probe. National HOA Corruption Task Force. We want you leading it." She paused, then said, "I'm in." As for Karen, she sat in a beige cell, her lawyer, doing damage control while her online reputation crumbled. She tried to deny it all, claimed she didn't know Maya was FBI, claimed she was defending her community, that she was afraid because Maya looked suspicious. But the body cam footage told another story. Karen wasn't scared. She was smug, entitled, condescending, and the public wasn't buying her crocodile tears. 1 week later, Maya received a formal letter from the court. It offered her the option to speak at Karen's hearing. She declined. "She doesn't deserve my voice," Maya said. "Let her hear the silence of consequences." Now, when people drive past our ranch, they don't see just a lake, they see freedom, a place where justice lives quietly, waiting for the next HOA tyrant to knock on the wrong door. The lake is still peaceful. Maya still fishes. But the new sign at the edge. It doesn't just say private property anymore. Now it reads, "Protected by federal agent. HOA tyrants not welcome." And Karen. She can see it from her window. Every single day. The morning after Karen's arrest, something remarkable began to stir, not in headlines or courtrooms but in front lawns, in inboxes, and across doorsteps of a neighborhood once held hostage by its HOA. For years, people had whispered about the abuse. Now they spoke it aloud. It started small. A woman named Rosa, who lived 5 houses down, rang our doorbell with a trembling smile and tear-filled eyes. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said. "What your wife did. She gave us all a voice." Rosa had been fined nearly $3,000 over 5 years for ridiculous violations. A wreath on her door in July. A flag on her porch that clashed with the community color scheme, and her grandkids' inflatable pool during a summer visit. She was a widow, living on a fixed income, but the HOA didn't care. Every month, another fine, another warning, another threat of lien. After the FBI investigation hit the news, Rosa dug out the old letters she'd hidden in a drawer out of shame. "I thought it was just me," she whispered. Maya took the stack, nodded, and said, "It never is." By the end of the week, more residents came forward. One after another. A veteran named Jake had been fined for parking his truck in his own driveway too frequently. A single mom named Hannah had been threatened with eviction over her kids drawing chalk art on the sidewalk. A retired couple had faced foreclosure threats because their shutters were the wrong shade of beige. Each story was a fracture in the HOA's foundation. And Maya, she was the earthquake. But she didn't barge in with a badge. She didn't give speeches or issue ultimatums. Instead, she organized a quiet meeting in our barn. She called it a neighborhood open house. Just a few folding chairs, bottled water, and a handwritten sign. Bring your stories. Bring your receipts. 50 people showed up, then 100. One man broke down crying as he recounted how Karen had embarrassed him in front of his grandkids, shouting at him for hanging a hammock between 2 trees. Another woman held up a photo of her late husband, saying he spent the last 2 years of his life trying to fight bogus HOA liens, only for the board to ignore every letter from his lawyer. Maya listened. She took notes. She gave out printed guides on homeowners' rights, federal housing protections, and how to file formal complaints with HUD and the State Attorney General's office. Then she did something unexpected. She created an online portal titled HOA Abuse Archive. With the help of her FBI colleagues off duty, Maya developed a digital filing system that allowed residents to upload every violation, photo, fine, and notice they had ever received. The goal wasn't just to expose the corruption, but to document it professionally and permanently. Within 48 hours, the portal had 327 entries. By the end of the week, over 600. That's when the local news returned, not for another scandal but for a movement. The headline this time. Residents fight back. HOA faces federal pressure after FBI agent's wife exposes abuse. Maya's name remained omitted, but the neighborhood knew. And for the first time in years, they smiled when they said her name. Even those who once defended the HOA fell silent. One former board member, Mr. Patel, came forward in tears during a second town meeting. I joined, thinking I'd help, he said, but it was all about power. Karen ... She threatened us too. Said we'd be fined ourselves if we didn't vote with her. I'm sorry. Maya looked him in the eye and said softly, then help us fix it. He did. Together, they drafted a petition for full HOA board dissolution, citing fraud, civil rights violations, and failure to serve the community's best interest. It needed 1,000 signatures. They got 1,271 in 3 days. The petition went viral. People from other towns and states emailed support. Videos from the town hall circulated online. Calm but commanding voice was spliced into TikToks with captions like, greater than this woman didn't scream. She didn't beg. She investigated. Karen thought she ran the neighborhood. She ran into the FBI instead. The HOA, once feared, now scrambled. The interim president Karen's friend resigned abruptly after it was revealed she'd approved $15,000 in decorative shrubbery enhancements to her own backyard. As lawsuits mounted and investigations expanded, something beautiful happened. Neighbors reconnected. Kids began playing outside. Again, chalk drawings filled sidewalks. Families painted their shutters, whatever color they pleased. Veterans parked their trucks proudly. Flags flew. Music played. Laughter returned. Someone even started a weekend potluck by the lake. No permits. No warnings. Just food, freedom, and friendship. And there was Maya sitting with Rosa, Jake, and Hannah watching the sun set over the water she once sat beside in silence, while being accused of trespassing on her own land. One of the children ran up to her with a crayon drawing. It was a picture of Maya standing tall, with a cape and sunglasses, surrounded by people holding signs. At the top, it read, HOA Boss Fighter. Maya laughed genuinely, deeply, and framed it on our kitchen wall. And for the first time in a long time, the community wasn't ruled by fear or fines. It was guided by truth, accountability, and one woman who refused to be moved from her own land. The silence in our ranch house was different that morning, not peaceful, deliberate. Maya sat at the kitchen table, the morning light casting a halo over her crisp blue FBI hoodie. In front of her sat a simple white envelope, no return address, but Maya had already scanned it for fingerprints. It was from Karen, the very woman who had accused her of trespassing, tried to get her arrested, and humiliated her on land that had been in our name for nearly a decade. I watched from the counter as Maya slit open the envelope. Her hands were calm, but I knew her silence well enough to know her mind was working fast. She unfolded the letter and began to read. Dear Maya. I'm writing you not as an enemy, but as a woman who made a terrible mistake. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know what power you held. And now I'm facing consequences I never imagined. Maya exhaled. Just once. Quietly. She didn't say a word as she read further. Greater than I know you're the reason this case is happening. I know your team is behind the investigation that took everything from me. I lost my position, my community, even my dignity. I'm begging you, please, speak to the judge on my behalf. Just tell them I didn't mean harm. I was just doing what I thought was right. Please, you have the power to end this. There was no apology for trespassing. No remorse for filing a false police report. Just fear, desperation, a plea from someone who'd been so used to authority, until she ran into the one person she could never intimidate. Maya folded the letter neatly and slid it into a manila folder, along with copies of Karen's past complaints and violations. Her voice was level when she finally spoke. She still doesn't get it. I nodded. What do you want to do? She looked out toward the lake, where mist still hung over the water like a secret. Nothing. The law will handle her. I'm not her judge. She turned to me, eyes sharp as glass. But I am her consequence. 2 weeks later, courtroom packed. Eyes watching every breath. Karen sat on the defendant's bench, wrists fidgeting, cheeks hollow. The woman who once stood tall with a clipboard now barely made eye contact with the courtroom. The federal judge shuffled through the thick case file. Mrs. Hampton, he said, using Karen's full name. You are charged with knowingly filing a false police report, obstruction of justice, and criminal trespassing. You've also been implicated in multiple HOA code violations and financial fraud pending civil trial. Karen stood, clutching the edges of the table like it could save her. Your Honor. Her attorney began. My client made a poor judgment call. Yes, but she is a long-standing member of her community. She has no prior record. She acted under misguided assumptions, and she's facing enough humiliation from the media exposure already. We request leniency. The judge raised an eyebrow. Ms. Johnson, do you wish to make a victim impact statement? All eyes turned toward Maya. She stood slowly, confidently, as if the courtroom were just another debriefing room. My name is Maya Johnson. I live on the land my wife and I purchased, with no HOA affiliation. Karen didn't just trespass. She weaponized a false narrative and law enforcement against me. She called 911, described me as a suspicious woman, possibly armed, knowing that I'm a black woman, alone in a rural area. The courtroom held its breath. She knew what that phone call could have meant for me. She knew the world we live in. She didn't care. Karen's lips trembled. Her attorney put a hand on her back. But Maya kept going. She lied. She endangered me. And she mocked the justice system by assuming it was her personal enforcer. I don't need revenge. I just want her to experience something new for once. Accountability. And with that, Maya sat. The judge leaned forward. Thank you, Agent Johnson. He turned to Karen. This isn't just a case of poor manners or misunderstanding. It's a case of power abused. You used false legal authority, public services, and fear to assert dominance over your neighbor, who in fact had more legal and federal authority than you ever imagined. Karen whimpered. I'm sentencing you to 6 months probation, a $10,000 fine to be paid directly to the county for wasted emergency resources, and 200 hours of mandatory community service, including cleanup duty at city parks, where you answer to supervisors who will treat you no better than the people you once bullied. Karen began to cry openly now. There was no standing ovation. No courtroom drama moment. Just a woman finally realizing her entitlement no longer carried weight. Outside the courthouse, the press waited. Maya didn't stop for cameras. She didn't gloat. She walked right past the reporters with her badge clipped discreetly to her belt and a quiet strength in her posture. But the world noticed anyway. Headlines lit up again that evening. HOA bully gets served by FBI agent she tried to evict. Lake dispute ends with federal justice. Karen disappeared from public view. Some said she moved. Others said she went into hiding from embarrassment. But the HOA collapsed soon after. The community voted to dissolve it entirely. Maya had empowered more than just herself. She'd unlocked something in others. The right to push back. The right to live without fear of being fined for a fence that's 2 inches too tall. Back home, Maya stood once more by the lake. She cast her fishing line out over the still water. Birds chirped, wind rustled, and our dog snored softly under a tree. I walked over and asked, feeling better. She smiled. Justice doesn't always come in a courtroom. Sometimes it comes with peace. I nodded. We installed a new sign at the entrance of our ranch the next day. It was oak wood, hand-carved, and cleanly painted. It read, Private property, federal agent, protected trespass, at your own risk. And just beneath it, in smaller print, greater than fishing, welcome. Lies aren't. Because, out here, the water runs deep, and now, so does the justice.